just finished up playing Vinci. This is a game I knew I liked. I've played it before, but I didn't own a copy, and I really wanted one for a long time, actually. When I learned about Small World, I made this kind of bargain. Well, whichever one I can get first at a price I'm happy with. And I got a copy of Vinci. I probably paid more than I wanted to for it, but not a terrible amount. And this is actually, I was leaning more towards Vinci out of the two, because who knows, maybe Small World has some stuff I don't like. I know I like this one. And yeah, I like it. Component-wise, I think the board is very pretty, very functional. No real words against it, to tell you the truth. Little wooden pieces are fine. The counters are good. They convey a good deal of information on them. It takes some getting used to. You sometimes have to look up what the points on them mean, but that's okay. One doesn't assume everything's going to be a war game. The bag. It's nothing fantastic, but after I had picked up a game where the bag was like untouchable, I have to say this one, you know, it's not cotton, but it's not disgusting to have anywhere near my body. It's this player aid chart with an example, and you know what was really awesome? I didn't have to look at it once. Now, it's actually kind of useful because it gives the sequence of play for the different expansion or declining turns, which you might have to look at the rules. It also might be useful to someone who hasn't played to get kind of a view of how it works. There's a reprint of the special abilities. I didn't look to see if these are as good. They look like they're about the same as the ones on the little player aid cards. And although I think these are a great idea, unfortunately there wasn't enough room on them to put all the rules on all the abilities on them. Which means you still really kind of have to look them up in the rules if you want to know what they actually do. There is most cases, I think the questions are obvious, but that's one of the disadvantages to the player aid design here, is maybe a slightly larger card with more words on it. Or if this had more detail, let me see if it does. Talk about this? No. Alright. There's a little bit more detail and completeness in what's written up here, and it would just be nice to have that in another place. And honestly, I think the player aid cards are kind of a waste because they aren't complete. They should at least have a mark in them, more information contained in the rules or something like that, to indicate on specific ones that you need that for. The rules themselves are very good, actually, for something this light. I think really clear. What they lack, maybe. No, they have that even. No, I'm pretty happy with them. There's not a lot of annoying pictures. They don't have a glossy glare. They have pictures in them, that's great. They're kind of, you know, on the borderlines and everything. And I think the rules are actually an excellent job for what it is. The game itself, you have the options of which civilization in the upcoming chart you want to take. You've got your handicapping system built in with that, with, okay, I don't like the next one, I'm willing to pay a couple victory points to skip it. You're never forced into something bad, although something bad may be so attractive because everybody's put chips on it. Nothing's usually that terrible, although there are some combinations. Like, none of the chits are bad, but some of the combinations of chits can be much more or less valuable. The only thing I can see with the the initial start of the game, it's possible that the first player could, say, get a really powerful combination early on. But points you get early in the game probably aren't that big a deal. The players have a tremendous ability to bring one another down and to try to balance it. In a lot of ways, so what does it remind me of because of that? And I mean, you have tremendous fluidity. You get to pick where you start, so you can start right on somebody's butt and just chomp through all their stuff. And take whatever it is that's making them valuable as a civilization to that player, take it away from them. So some people might not like the fact that you are always vulnerable in this game. There is no way to really protect yourself. So it becomes this game of trying, and I mentioned this in the wrap, of trying to be in the right place towards the end of the game. And where we saw in this game, it was many points behind the leaders. At the very end of the game, on the last couple turns, it was a good 10 points behind the leaders, right? And with a really good setup. You needed that combination. You need the physical board presence to take advantage of being ignored. If you can't maintain that, and we saw some of the other players who weren't able to get that big jump that Blue got at the end, well, it's of no use at all. But the game almost always devolves into someone coming from behind and making huge gains at the end. May or may not be that they win, although I've seen more likely that the person from behind wins, just because of human nature. You have to stop the guy you know is going to win. The other guy, well, next turn I can get him, you know? Well, sometimes next turn is a little too far off, because now you're in a position where you have to stop 3 people. Of course, if you didn't stop the first 2, it would have been over on the last turn. So, yeah, it's just a really, to me, that's a very nice to see that kind of fluidity in the end game, where anybody who's been able to manage their civilizations well enough to be in a position to be close to the victory line has a chance to get over it. What could be bad here? Well, there's certainly a king-making aspect. We saw Red faced with that decision. What do you want to do? And they were kind of upset about Blue's come from behind position. Other people might be upset that someone sat on top for a long time. Or they might, you know, want to give the cute girl a bonus or whatever, you know? And that's always something that's somewhat disturbing with a game of this nature, that you could be walking into something where, you know, you feel like diplomacy and personalities and everything can enter into it. Well, I like games like that. I like being able to play that meta game of convincing people the other person's in the lead. That pleases me. Some people who complain about it play it anyway, and that pleases me less. What else is... well, let me think about it in comparison to some other games. So one that it really falls for me is History of the World, in terms of it feels like the same kind of thing. I've got these multiple civilizations, and I'm trying to score points from them. The mechanisms in this are much, much cleaner. I love the combat mechanism where you know what you're gonna, you know what you need to play. It's like Civilization in that sense, and that pleases me a great deal. I like games where there's what I see as an elegant system like that. The scoring, really, really easy. You know, I got 1, 2, 3. Okay, sure, there are some modifiers and everything, but it's not this, it's often quite hard to tell where you can score your best points in something like History of the World. Of course, those extra decisions points may add some interest to people. The biggest thing I dislike about History of the World is probably the die rolling, which isn't terrible, and well, I really dislike the new version with all the plastic pieces. So, not just for the plastic pieces, but they're definitely a problem. What else can I compare it to? Well, Civilization is definitely one to compare it to. Now, this is much, much shorter. It doesn't have the, technology growth, etc. All it has is this: you're stuck with a civ and you're going to gather points. So it's not really like it, but it does have that kind of elegant combat system where you can just look and say, I know what I can do. I know what's going to happen here. I can really plan ahead in this game. I know I don't like planning ahead. But it doesn't bother me here because it's very simple. Some games, the planning ahead is just at that limit where I know I could do it if I worked really, really hard at it. But I don't like working hard at things like that. I don't like working hard. There was, this struck me in terms of how much I enjoyed it. About the same as Imperial, to tell you the truth. It's a different game, there's no question, but it has a lot of the same kind of feeling of something that's kind of a moderately short game, by which I mean, you can probably get it done in maybe 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever, or 2 hours, I don't care. It's not, it's not like playing a hand of cards, but it's also not something you'd spend the whole day on. It would be one of a number of short games in a short game session or whatever. And at that level, and at kind of the amount of interaction, the right level of thinking, and the fun level for me, I put it in that same category, I'd say. I think it's a pretty good game, and I think it's a shame that, I didn't really get a lot of attention, I think. And Small World has now kind of taken the same system, from what I understand, and is hugely popular. I think maybe it's that Vinci was aiming at the pure Euro market. There was no one else really around looking at games with little wooden pieces. Whereas Small World is able to kind of, because of the fantasy element, etc., take a step more towards the Ameritrash side of things. And now here's the thing. Ameritrash, back when Vinci came out, it was pure, you didn't have your Euro aspects in it. Now we're seeing this blending of the different sides of the hobby, of gaming overall. And I think that's kind of cool. It's just sad to me that, this design, which I think was very, very good, didn't get the full chance among the populace as a whole that maybe Small World is able to get now. And it could just be theme, and all those expansions and this, that, and the other make Small World more attractive. To me, I'd rather have the cleaner, plainer version, I think. I might get bored with it if I played it a lot, and might want something with lots and lots of expansions, but I don't tend to play most of my board games a lot, so I'm happier with something kind of simple and more elegant.